Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every weekend. This week on the show, we're going to be diving into the latest episode of the Bad Batch, Into the Breach. Very excited to talk about this episode. Plus, we will be previewing our new interview with Uncle Iroh. Carson Teva, actor Paul Sun Young Lee. And of course, stay tuned until the end when we answer your amazing questions. All this and much, much more on this episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. My name is Chris, and joining me, it's Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Very excited to be back. Very excited to be talking about Bad Batch. I feel like we're in the end game now for Bad Batch. I feel like we've reached the point where it's just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Because, we're getting there. The action is heating up. We've reached that point in the story where I almost feel like there's not much left to talk about. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Just live in the moment and watch Rika, Tik, Iko, and the other one, Crosshair, that's it, and Omega, all of them as they go on these adventures. And
Teak, where's Teak?
Well, he's in there. I keep trying to tell you guys he's alive. He's there. He's going to be revealed in the last two episodes. But also very excited to share with you some previews from the interview I did with Paul last week. That's part of the reason I ducked out of last week's show early, was to prep for that. And boy, he delivered. He really delivered. You're going to hear some of it tonight, and you'll hear the rest of it on Sunday. And boy, this is a really special interview, special bonus pod that we're going to have. So look forward to that, and look forward to this discussion. It's going to be a great show.
Heck yes. Also joining us, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? Good to be back. And yes, can't wait to get into this episode and breach this podcast. I think that one doesn't really roll off the tongue as well. I'm just going to leave that one.
You can use your original pun, Ben. I didn't use it.
I noticed that, okay, but I figure, look, it's totally optional, okay? What I put in the script is optional, okay? I don't pressure anyone.
I just read it from the center outwards for some reason. I don't know what type of Lexia that is, but by the time I'd read it and started reading, I realized I totally missed the pun if you were to read it like left to right.
Like a normal person.
Well, like many people.
Yeah, a normal person in the English-speaking world.
Yeah, like many people. But yes, we are going to be diving into the breach. There we go.
There it is.
I said it.
I
said the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Super excited. And we have a really exciting guest tonight. Sometimes we call people friend of the show. This is like the OG friend of the show. We've known this guy for so long that I bet there are kids that are watching Bad Batch now that weren't alive when he started podcasting with us back in the day, which is just like a mind blow. That's right. You'll know him from very old episodes of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast, some really fun mega pods, as well as from the Intergalactic Peace Coalition podcast. It is Zach, the voice, Arnold.
You put so much pressure on me to deliver now, and I really don't know if I'll be able to. Like that hype was better than any intro I've ever made for myself. Thank you.
Clip it and put it on your own stuff. You have permission.
Like I'll take a little screen grab of that. Zach, the voice, Arnold.
Thank you. You didn't do the thing we talked about, which was run down the hallway and cheer and just to salute the crowd.
I gotta give like virtual high fives to everybody or something. Yeah. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I actually sent a time hop to Ben the other day. Y'all still use time hop? Does anybody use time hop, or am I that old?
I don't even remember what that is.
I sent a Facebook memory, I guess.
That's right.
Over to Ben.
That's what it's called now.
I made a post on April 16th, and today is the 18th. April 16th of 12 years ago. That I would be making a guest appearance on the Star Wars Underworld podcast.
Whoa.
So
12 years.
we have like come completely full circle by a matter of 2 days, and it is so exciting because IPC is coming up on its 10-year anniversary next month. And I've been off freelancing, doing local sports broadcasting in the Dallas area for the last couple of years, and so Star Wars has always been my roots. Being on this podcast is kind of how I gained the confidence to talk to the masses on a microphone, and so this is like a homecoming of sorts for me, and I'm really excited to be back.
Yeah, I think Zach, like just to underscore how long you've been around for, I think in the like video version of the intro that people see on YouTube and stuff, I think you're in it for like almost as long as Hannah,
just
who is now on the show which underscores one, how long we've been friends and how long you've been around for, but also how badly we need to redo that to put Hannah much more in the intro, seeing that she's on every week and will be joining us in progress on this week. She's not here yet, but she ran into some train trouble and will join us in a little bit. But Zach, we're going to talk a lot about Bad Batch. All those years ago, we were probably talking about Clone Wars. Before we dive into the main discussion, what have your feelings been on the Bad Batch as a whole and on season 3 specifically thus far?
Well, that's a really loaded question, but you're right. I went back and I looked because the last appearance I had was in 2012, and we had just finished season 4. We were getting ready for season 5 of the Clone Wars TV show, and I had been watching it since day one, since I was in high school, and so the Bad Batch has kind of been a continuation of my childhood for me. It's something that I am familiar with. It's a style I'm familiar with, and it's characters that I grew to appreciate when we had the unedited versions that released years before the show did. And so there's a bit of nostalgia attached to it for me, simply because it seems like the creators and the powers that be want to let go of this part of the franchise about as little as I do. Like we had so many epic seasons of the Clone Wars, and now we get like a sequel / spinoff that continues in like a Clone Wars style, and yet has some very original characters and some very original storytelling that allows it to separate itself enough for us to be able to dedicate an entire episode like we're doing tonight to an individual episode of the show. And so it's really great to see it continue, and I know that there's only a couple weeks left of it, but for this story, if you will, to last from 2008 to 2024 is impressive, and I'm going to be sad when we finally have to say goodbye.
And hopefully it won't like truly be saying goodbye. Hopefully the same way the Bad Batch spun out of the Clone Wars, there's another show just waiting to be spun out of the Bad Batch.
No one's ever truly gone, right?
Exactly. So we'll get into more Bad Batch discussion in just a moment. We'll break down the episode. But first, let's hear from Paul Sun-Young Lee. We're gonna feature some clips from the interview that's gonna come out on Sunday throughout this episode, and we're gonna start with this one. One of the things I wanted to ask Paul about was, in addition to being a genuinely talented and successful actor like he is, he's also just a huge fan. Dude's been in the 501st and the Rebel Legion for years, like as a full member, before he ever was in Star Wars. This isn't one of those honorary memberships that people get. And in fact, I remember seeing him at like a Toronto Comic-Con, like just there, just in costume, doing booth time at the 501st booth. And I remember walking by and thinking, is that the dude from Kim's Convenience? Nah, it can't be the dude from Kim's Convenience. And I walked by again a few minutes later, and like he was holding court with a bunch of people talking about stuff, and he was talking about Kim's Convenience. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the dude from Kim's Convenience. And so I wanted to ask him, what was it like to go from, building your own costumes, being part of these costume clubs, to then one day putting on an actual Star Wars costume. So without further ado, let's hear from Paul Lee about going from being fan made costumes to the real deal. You go to your first costume fitting, and you being, 501st Rebel Legion member, you get that X-Wing pilot costume for the first time. Are you putting it on going, oh, this is different from the stuff that we make? Or this is just like the stuff that we make?
It's a little bit of both. Because I go in because I cosplay as a Rebel pilot. I actually have that cosplay. You've seen it.
Oh yeah.
But there's a difference between an off the rack jumpsuit that is mass produced for everybody, and it's small, medium, large, extra large, and something that is scratch built by a wardrobe department and fitted, tailored to you. And that's what the orange flight suit was tailored to my measurements. Like it was made just for me, which is really, really cool. But then the other parts are they outsource like the chest box, the helmets, all the other accoutrements of the pilot. They outsource them from the same places, same vendors, same makers that a lot of cosplayers do, because they are such fantastic quality. And so like the chest box was from a company called Far and Away Creations, and it was their Rogue One style. And the helmets, same thing, from Far and Away Creations, which was based on a Novos design that was modified and whatnot. They had to make their own strapping for the ejection harnesses and stuff like that, which was cool. And I got to help out a little bit with that because there was a bit of confusion as to what was going on. And because I had all these photos on my phone, these carefully curated photos of my own build, I was able to walk through the wardrobe department on the little tricks in the trade of the trade that I had learned from various other cosplayers whose build threads I had been scouring, right? And so it was this really wonderful coming full circle moment. So whereas, yes, there, it was similar to my cosplay in so many other elements, just because they had the resources to scratch build stuff. It was so much better.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
They didn't let you keep that one, did they?
No, they don't let you keep anything. They reuse everything, which is incredible. And I think that's one of the most asked questions I get. Frequently asked questions is, do you get to keep your stuff? Did they let you keep it? It's like the answer is always no.
Of course, yeah.
A lot of movie sets, they won't let you keep any because if they put money into it, it belongs to production. And no, I didn't take anything either because I don't want to get caught and not be asked back because I was too stupid to exercise self-control. And so, yeah, that's the other question is too.
Yeah,
things have been gifted to me by the props department. Where
there you go.
It's no longer needed, and they were gonna dispose of them. So I've got a deck of Sabacc cards that was used in season 2, which is really great. Some credits, New Republic credits, and Imperial credits. And yeah, so those are the things that were gifted to me, which was awesome.
There it is, Paul Sun Young Lee, everybody. We'll have more from Paul throughout the show. But yeah, wild that but also impressive that they are just like, you know what, the fans, these consumer level stuff, they know what they're doing at this point. Might as well just buy that stuff to use on the show. Pretty wild stuff.
That's
and pretty exciting for someone like Paul to be there and get a nice gift like that at the end. I want a Sabacc deck. How do I get one of those? How do I get to be in Star Wars? Damn it!
Galaxy's Edge.
That's right.
Or
it's
Galaxy's Edge.
Galaxy's Edge.
Amazing. All right, Chris, plug some stuff, and then we'll talk about the Bad Batch.
All right. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you punch that subscribe button. Chewy, you can super chat with us if you're watching live. And if you want to support us, if you're watching the show recorded, you can become a channel member over here. If you're just listening to us, also consider subscribing and please review the show on the app that you're listening to us on. We've got a lot going on right now on the SWU Network Discord. We had a real fun time watching American Graffiti last week. Ben changed his opinion on American Graffiti, which was interesting.
I went from here to here.
Yes,
Okay.
and but he still needs to watch it all the way through because he did disappear for part of the watching. There's still a part.
That is so bad.
I went
so bad.
we
should almost play the Ben Hart the Star Wars guy video. Like
I went get this to go get burgers and fries at a 50s diner during
I'll
American
allow
Graffiti.
That was allowed.
I appreciate that.
That was allowed, but it definitely a rain check on watching it a third time for sure. And so, all fun stuff like that happens over at the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord, which you can join by just hitting the link in the description or the show notes. It's right there. Check it out. And also make sure you follow us on Threads at the SWU, the only real social media network that is not full of 300 bots trying to watch our show and learn the ways of the humans.
Hi, bot!
And finally, of course, check out all the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network. We got the Raeside, Iron Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more. The Raeside and the Tales from Beyond the Galaxy can be found under their own names, and you can catch Iron Cannon and Tractor Beam on this very channel throughout the week.
All right, let's get into things. Let's talk about The Bad Batch. We're, of course, talking about Season 3, Episode 13, Into the Breach, directed by Saul Ruiz and written by Brad Rao. We will start how we always do. Go around the table, give some initial impressions. And Ben, like always, for the third to final time with The Bad Batch, we're going to throw it to you first.
When you put it like that, man, I mean, this episode already made me tense. It already stressed me out to the limit. And now I'm thinking, oh yeah, we'll do 2 more times of this and then we're done with Bad Batch and make me cry on top of being stressed. But yeah, that was the takeaway of this. Just also not just stress, but also just like ultimately, a lot going forward and like really moving the plot forward and moving us and having these everything, it's the meme. It's all coming together. Like it's things, Omega's working her way out and they're working their way in and they're going to meet in the middle. Like this is next episode, something's about to go down. So it's really like you're saying, just like, you kind of just sit back and enjoy the ride because it is like, Sith is about to get real.
Yes, indeed. Zach, what about you? What are your thoughts on this one?
I really, really enjoyed a physical manifestation of the internal growth that we have seen in Omega this entire season. She has been working her magic and softening people's hearts, whether that be Crosshair or whether that be Emery, and that maturity is on its fullest display in this episode. And it's not to say that she was immature in season 1, but there's a lot of physical and emotional growth that has taken place from episode 1 all the way up to here. And I was very, very impressed with her character arc in this episode. And I was also impressed with the type of control that Hunter seemed to express in his situation on his storyline. There are times where maybe he just kind of, in my opinion, lets things happen. But there's a lot of instances in this episode where he asserts control a little bit more than he has in previous episodes. And so it was good to see him being the leader of the group on his storyline, and good to see Omega kind of becoming the leader of her group throughout her storyline.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of Omega, finally are having arrived at the show.
Good.
And the Raeside, you made it.
I made it.
The trains finally got to you.
Can't beat that city train system. Damn. No, we are here. I am here. It's very, very good to be here. I'm keen to get into Bad Batch, and I get to meet Zach for the first time.
Hello.
And Zach,
Zach, Hannah, Zach.
I've got one question for you.
Uh-oh.
how have you put up with Ben Hart all these years? How have you done it? What's the secret? What is the secret to putting up with this guy?
This is actually a very good question. I want to hear this.
You put me on the spot here. I don't know how to like cleverly craft that answer in 5 seconds.
We have a podcast coming up in a week or so. Just so you know, we have to do.
I think it involves feeding Ben a lot of Texas barbecue. That's
that probably does it. That'll do it.
It probably could have something to do with that. I think he and I both being from the southern states and having an affinity for barbecue and an affinity for Star Wars, we're probably more kindred spirits than either of us care to admit. And both of us are terrible with scheduling, which is why we only have episodes once a month now, because like we randomly write each other, like we haven't even done it this month. Like, for example, it's the 18th of the month. We haven't even scheduled when the April episode is supposed to happen. It probably won't at this point.
Phenomenal.
Are you available anytime? What's your availability? You want to have a
right now,
meeting?
live right now.
Immediately after this episode. Stay tuned.
No, not for me though.
Amazing. It's amazing.
But,
and might I add, you look like the fancy version of Ben. You look sort of alike, but fancier. Like Ben is the
fancy
Walmart
me.
Ben. You're the.
So
I don't know
I'm an
what's fancy
upscale
for that.
redneck. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Thank you. I think.
Oh, this is gonna be good. I'm glad to be here.
Amazing. Well, Hannah, we'll give you a moment to catch your breath after all that. Chris, tell us what you thought of Bad Batch season 3, episode 13.
All right, we've been having all these conversations the last few weeks about like pacing and like how to like intersperse A plots and B plots and all this stuff. And really, honestly, my biggest takeaway from this episode is, wow, they put the A plot and the B plot together so nice. I don't know which one is A and which one is B. Like, it's wonderful. They did a 2-plot episode very, very well with parallel stories, parallels and character arcs, like Zach mentioned, and parallels and intention and when it peaked. And yeah, that was done very well. So I love the structure. I love the structure of the editing and the writing of this episode. I thought it was very fun. And I felt like it moved the story along enough for me to be like, yes, this is definitely like a important episode of the series, which I kind of wish for every week. So it was a really fun, entertaining, well-constructed episode for me that I enjoyed watching.
Absolutely. Hannah, over to you. Your thoughts on Into the Breach.
Yeah, I really thought this was such a great set up episode to what should be a pretty interesting finale on Tantus. I loved the 2 storylines. I think the Amiga stuff, I was really getting freaked out. I'm like, am I watching Andor? Did I click the wrong like title card on Disney Plus? Because I was like, this is an episode of Andor right now. All the Amiga stuff, being in the prison, trying to figure out, even the music. The music was very Andor, the suspenseful, really long and ominous sounds. It was really cool to see. And I think I heard Zach, you were mentioning it, like Amiga coming into her own at the moment. It's been so fun to watch this season, and she's so confident. Like, it's kind of been building and brewing for this season of like, oh, she's a bit more like gutsy here. But then I feel like this is the episode where it's like, she's sitting there, she's got that smirk on her face. I can do it. I can break out of here. She's so confident now, which is really cool to see. And then, I think it was a fun bit of Star Wars action we got in this space port above Coruscant. I just love that whole sequence. I thought it was really well done. Great dynamic and dialogue between Rampart and the Bad Batch. I thought that was so well written. And that should have been the backdoor pilot for an Echo and Rex show, because they really focused like a little too hard on the fact that like Echo is like doing this mission really well. Everyone look at Echo right now. Like, it just felt a little too pointed for that not to be a little bit of a hint of maybe what is to come of his character. But yeah, I really loved this episode. I think it was just great elements all around.
Yeah, it feels like they're pointing in that direction. Feels like that's got to be.
Like, we just spent a little too long. Look at Echo, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned Andor. I don't know if I made this point a couple of weeks ago when we first showed up in the vault and we saw the kids running around, but there was a moment where I sort of forgot what show we were watching during that first vault episode, where the kid is making the break for the door and he's thinking he's going to escape. And I had a thought of, oh my God, they're going to turn the floors on. They're going to turn the floors on.
Man.
And then I was like, wait a minute. Wrong show. They're not going to fry a child on
They haven't figured that technology out yet, because they absolutely would fry a child. The Empire has no qualms about that.
They would. They really, really would. Yeah, I think I agree with everybody. I think this was a really good episode of the Bad Batch. Is really, really well made. Everything from the writing, the direction, the shot selection, the editing, the music, which we'll come on to, all of that stuff was really, really, really good. It's just sort of like watching a masterclass of creating suspense in animation. And I almost have like nothing to say about the episode beyond that. Like, I think it was just really, really strong and really, really good. And I feel like, we're in the end game. We're at the end of the series. All the discussions we've been having up until this point have been like about character arcs and character journeys, and what are these characters going to do when they face certain situations, and we tend to focus a lot on that sort of thing. And at this point, it's like we're just seeing the payoff of that. All that stuff we speculated about and wondered about and discussed over the course of this show has sort of, we're now seeing it paid off. We're seeing it pay dividends, and it's just really, really fun to see. It's truly in the sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Or in the case of this show, sit back, get really, really tense, worry about everybody, and just feel a slight bit of relief at the end of each episode because it was that good. So I'm thrilled with what we're seeing at this point, even if I'm sort of like at a loss for things to really discuss and get into, because it is just the payoff at this point. This is the third to last episode. We have next week and then the finale, and then that's it. No more Bad Batch in this specific format. So I'm kind of loving it, but it is sort of hammering home the point that it's ending. But yeah, I did want to bring up the music though, because that's something I don't think we've talked nearly enough about on this show. The work of Kevin Kiner and Sean Kiner and Deanna Kiner, like the three of them have just been delivering on truly the next level with this show, with this season. Hannah, I feel like you know the most about music out of all of us here, so I'll throw it to you. What have you thought of the Kiners' work this season?
Indescribably accurate. It's not just that they've made good music, great music, and they've put it on the show. They have intrinsically understood the very specific themes of every episode, of every character. And yeah, to be fair, I don't know that like how their process works in terms of like what they know of the story or script and when they get to write the music, but it's just so interwoven into these episodes. It's not just there's great music playing while we're watching something. It's so just in the story, their music, which I think has just aided in this season, having that constant feeling of feeling very whole and satisfying and well done. Like we often say, oh, it's really well done this episode or this season. And I think that's a key part of it. So it's so good. It's beyond good. And I think it's really aided in this season feeling very satisfactory, to say the least.
And it is varied too. There's so much variety to it. Like there's this sort of classic Star Wars bombastic stuff, but all of these last few episodes, the stuff with Omega going back to the vault and everything in the vault, it's been so creepy and eerie and tense, and you just like you not to trust anything that you're seeing or hearing on screen, and how dangerous and how much risk Omega's at in all of these scenes, because the music is just being like, this isn't right. What's happening here isn't right, which we should know from the story, but the music is hammering that point home beautifully.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To piggyback off of that, if I may, the opening scene does that especially for me, because the first time I watched through it, I couldn't tell where the music ended and the alarm in the vault began. There's like a chime of sorts that Omega is getting up to and going out into the foyer, the courtyard, what have you. And I didn't realize the first time I watched it that she could hear it. I thought that the chime that was playing was a part of the episode score. And so the sound editing in particular in that first few seconds there is really eerie to me, because the Kiners have crafted their music so well that it sounds like the characters can hear them as well. And for that to be so enmeshed into the storytelling is a testament to how long they've been at it, for one, and how well they understand what story is being told, that you for a moment there can't tell where their music stops and the sound that exists within the show begins.
The music allows us to feel what the characters are feeling. Right. So even if Omega can't hear the music, literally, like that's the feeling inside of her. And it's the feeling inside of all of those kids that just, you know, something is wrong. And I like we haven't talked about the design, the like design of the show a lot either, but like the vault is so creepy. It's so creepy. It's so well designed with the windows above where, you know, you can tell they're watching you, but there's a moment here where they might have their backs turned. Like it's creepy. It's creepy. And it's that all white, you know, sort of THX 1138 kind of vibes of like just a void. There's nothing else beyond for these kids. All they can think about is those weird, creepy games that they have to play. Those playing digital Tetris with the holograms and stuff. It's it's really creepy. It's really, really, really well done. I don't think we've given enough kudos to like it feels cheap to call it the technical side of the show, because it's all art. But these things that aren't, you know, active, like writing, performance, directing stuff, like everything else that's about this season has been so strong. Let's talk a little bit about Omega. Something that I think this final season is picking up on. It's been a bit of a through line through the series, kind of maybe sort of, if we're talking about through lines the same way we talk about plots, it's maybe kind of like the C through line, but it's Omega interacting with other kids, because she never really did that on Camino. She never got that opportunity. Nala Se kept her kind of away from everybody else. And over the course of the series, starting with Cut LaQuain and then with some of the other kids we've encountered, like the ones on Pabu, or even to a lesser extent, Benny and the Communists, and you know, the younger. I don't know if she spent much time with the younger clones, but you know, we've seen her interacting with other kids, and here it's now Omega's left with nothing but other kids, and we really see her kind of coming into her own as a leader in that regard. Ben, what have you thought of? What did you think of Omega's interaction with those other three kids, Jax, May, and Eve? Is that what their names are?
Eva, Jax, Sammy, and Bairn.
Sammy and Bairn. Okay, where the hell did I get May from? I don't know. I just made that one up.
What's the Furby called? Which one's the Furby?
Furby is Bayrn.
Bayrn.
Bayrn. I watched with captions so that I could get all the names.
There you go.
That's
the way Zach did actual prep for this.
See, this is why you do unscheduled shows once a month. That's why you're here.
yeah. Plenty of time for research. I do like, because it's something that I was reading or hearing people talk about this, and kind of spurred my memory of just like where Omega began her story, and how she was, for seemingly her entire life until she met the Bad Batch, was stuck in a room like this, was stuck in a laboratory beneath Tipoca City, and couldn't go out, couldn't interact with the clones or whatever else. Knew the Bad Batch was there, knew they were her brothers, but couldn't really, they had no idea who they were. I like that this is really her confronting her ultimate fear. I'm just like, she's had all this time outside, and now she's coming back. She's come full circle. She's back in this horrible, horrible situation. And she approaches it with confidence, approaches it with just almost cockiness. She's almost cocky in this episode. She's like, "Yeah, you want to know a secret? I'm gonna bust us out of here. No big deal. Like I've done this before. No big deal." Like she's totally confident, and she has every reason to be because she has come full circle as a character. But it is like it's great to see her really approaching her ultimate fear, something that really could destroy her at this moment, ultimately coming out and giving hope to these kids who have just completely just lost hope. I'm just like, yeah, there's no way to get out. We're stuck in here, and giving hope to these kids. And we talk a lot about hope and Star Wars, and just like you see, like I think that shot right there, like that's the moment they're like, oh, we can actually like this Omega kid's for real. Like we might actually be going home. Like this is them, like their eyes light up and they're like, okay, maybe this will actually work. And bringing hope to people that are hopeless. That's a key theme in Star Wars. And, I think it's very, very cool that we have this storyline going on in the center of, obviously, I think they will be semi-successful. We don't know how successful they are, but like, even if it weren't for the fact that Hunter and everyone, the Bad Batch, are coming to get them, like I would have full confidence that Omega was going to make this happen and with no problem. So like it's really cool to see Omega stretch her legs in regards to being this really well-rounded character.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like we're seeing a more confident, more mature version of Omega. Like she's always kind of been this is a bad phrase for it, but she's been like adorkable. Right, like she's following the Bad Batch. She's copying Hunter. She's even copying Crosshair in some of these later episodes. Right. Like she's always been the kid amongst adults, and so the things that she does as a kid, well, they've done a really good job at not making her like an annoying kid. We people do sometimes kind of roll our eyes at her and go, kids these days, look at her, she's believing Fee's story that she's a treasure hunter when really she's a pirate and a smuggler sort of thing. But here we're seeing her with these other kids, and Ben, I think you made this a good point. Like their spirits are broken, and here she's come in with experience, with new ideas, and with the confidence of, I've broken out of here once before, I can do it again. And the whole thing with the prying open the wall, stealing the tool from Emery, I was waiting for that to blow up in her face. I was waiting for that to go wrong, and the fact that it worked out felt it was a nice moment. It was a good moment, and just again shows us this character has really come into her own. And it's made me think, a lot of one of the beautiful things about Star Wars, and especially this era of Star Wars, is that it's a continuing story. And just because the Bad Batch is ending doesn't mean the stories with these characters are necessarily ending. And you wonder what's next for them. And we had that really intriguing episode with Ventress, where they still left open the question of, could Omega be Force sensitive? Could she be trained as a Jedi? Does she have a high M count? And it makes you wonder. She's been all about rescuing clones on this show. Once they rescue the clones from Mount Tantus, what else is out there? What else is there for her to do? Who else needs saving in the galaxy? And all of the Force-sensitive children that are on the run from the Empire, that could be turned into Inquisitors, could be experimented on, could be any number of things. Maybe that's a future for her. Maybe that's a way forward. Even if she isn't a Jedi herself, maybe she's sort of the Jedi rescuer, or the youngling rescuer out there in the galaxy. But that's just speculation based on this episode from me. Nothing more than that. Chris, what did you think of Omega's story in the way it was moved forward in this episode?
I think, we're definitely seeing her be a lot more autonomous, and I think that started a few weeks ago. I think this has definitely been a thing for a bit, but I think when you look at over the kind of arc of the entire season and the entire show, it is kind of a big distinction going from, it wasn't that long ago where it was all about protecting her, and it was all about the Bad Batch and Hunter trying to keep her safe. And then we've gone from that to her being completely on her own, doing everything on her own, and kind of leading the charge in this battle that is in the process of happening. So I think that's in that kind of big view of everything. This is very, very huge. But I've almost like we've known she's had it in her the whole time, so it doesn't surprise me. It's like I'm not watching this episode and being like, oh, I'm surprised she's taking the lead, or I'm not even noticing it. It just seems natural to her. She's just a natural leader. She always has been. And so to me, it's just more Omega stuff, more Omega being Omega stuff. So it wasn't notable to me beyond just sitting back and watching it and being entertained.
And the first time Omega was captured on Tantus, like that was there was a feeling of she needs to be rescued, and then she escaped on her own. And this time, she turned herself in. She gave up, essentially. She gave herself up to get back to Tantus to try and figure out a way to get there. And she thought they might be able to track their way back. But in a way, she might be playing sort of a 3-dimensional game, kind of like the holographic Tetris that she was doing, because, she's wanted to go back to Tantus to rescue the clones. And the only way to spur Hunter and Crosshair and Wrecker and well, not so much Echo. Echo was kind of on her side the whole time. But those other three, the only way to spur them into action was by motivating them, and she knows how to motivate them, and that's by letting them think they're coming to rescue her, when really she doesn't need to be rescued. She escaped once, and she's basically in the process of escaping again. And this time, though, she wants to take everybody else with her, and that's where she needs the help. So I kind of like where this is all going. Hannah, Zach, do you guys want to weigh in on Omega?
You go ahead.
Okay.
Cool.
I didn't want us to just start gushing and overlap.
You're right.
Gush away.
So I went to school to study communications, and one of the most interesting things that I've noticed about Omega this season is her varying communication styles. She has always been really strong in one-on-one interactions. And the most notable one was the way that she was able to turn Crosshair around. He went from being someone very defeated to now being a member of the family again, being very motivated. And a lot of that is thanks to the one-on-one conversations that she's had. That has been primarily how she imparts her wisdom and inspires confidence, is talking to somebody directly, one-on-one. And what she was able to do in a group setting in this episode is a continuation of that growth that everybody else is talking about. Because it can be very easy for somebody to communicate one-on-one. Those are probably the simplest and easiest forms of interaction. But when you're able to inspire an entire group with what you're saying, I think that's a testament to how much she has grown and matured. And to be able to have that confidence in herself and be able to inspire that confidence in others is the mark of true leadership, in my opinion. And like people have been alluding to, she's pretty much always had it in her. But I think what's different is she is now the person that is looking out for others rather than being looked out for. The Bad Batch has always been responsible for her, and she just kind of has to take orders. And that's why she can impart that wisdom one-on-one, because in a group setting, in the Bad Batch's group setting, she is the lowest ranking officer, essentially. She doesn't have the authority to dish out orders, to communicate what she thinks needs to be done. She just follows orders like a good soldier. Now she has her own platoon. She has her own group. She is the group leader of the Vault. And the power dynamic, the authority dynamic has shifted, and she's taking it in stride. And so to see that manifesting itself has been literally seasons in the making. And it's so cool to see what she's fully capable of. And I think that was on full display in that sequence where she talks about how she's going to break out again. She's done it. She knows she can do it. And it's basic speech forming. Honestly, you introduce yourself, you tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. That's how that's how a basic speech pattern goes if you're giving a formal presentation. And she presented an introduction and a thesis, and these next 2 episodes are going to be her concluding statement.
Ooh, I like that. I like that the way you put that.
That's good.
Yeah, her concluding
well done.
statement. That's good. Yeah, Hannah, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think we hit all the right points here of Amiga's character development, and I think to at least my unsuspecting view, she's got to become such a talked about character in Star Wars. She was always interesting in the dynamic of the Bad Batch, but now more than ever, people are discussing her character arc, and I think a lot of people often liken her journey to Ahsoka's journey. This kind of just minor character to support the main other characters ends up being the most talked about character in the show. Going, Ahsoka, and End of Clone Wars was really centered around Ahsoka's experience and from her perspective. So I think, Amiga is so that experience for us, but with Bad Batch, she's becoming the most talked about character, and her journey and experience with all this, and her point of view has become one of the most interesting point of views. So like what we've all said, I think that all hits the nail on the mark, and it's been really cool to see her become such a favorite. And not that she was not a favorite, but she's become this very complex character and on this journey, even though she's such a young character.
Absolutely. I think when we look back on Bad Batch, it's the same way we talk about Clone Wars as Ahsoka's story. It's very much the Omega story. Amiga, a Star Wars story. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about Echo. We haven't seen Echo in a while on this show. I think last time we saw him proper was the Rex two-parter. Zach, I'm going to throw to you. What did you think of Echo's return this week on the Bad Batch?
Well, going back to one of my earlier statements about being a fan of the Clone Wars TV show, my favorite episode for several seasons was Rookies. And that's where Echo got his start, was with the Domino Squad. So anytime I get to see Echo, I'm excited, because I've enjoyed his storyline literally since day one. And so to see his continued growth and the difference that he's making in the shadows of rebellion, and the fact that he's able to steal an Imperial shuttle on short notice. He says, "This is the best I can do on short notice." I'm like, dude, you just stole a ship out from the Empire, and you're just like, sorry, all I did was steal a ship from the greatest force in the galaxy. Like, that's the best you can do? Oh my God.
That's a good point. It's such a good point.
Like, he has so many great abilities, and he was an ARC trooper, and to have that potential of a spinoff like you were talking about, Dom, I would be watching it every week if that's what happens, because I've loved him and his squadron since day one. And so to see him continue to kicking ass just in a different capacity is something that I'll always be on board with. And he did it especially well in this episode. I loved that he and the rest of the batch didn't really use very many lethal measures. Everything that they did in an infiltration style was non-lethal. And to be able to execute your plan in such efficiency that there are no casualties, that's also a testament to your abilities as a soldier and as a person of subterfuge.
Yeah, absolutely. Sort of along those lines, Hannah, you brought up earlier the fact that, it feels like we're being set up for something more. Do you want to talk about that a little bit more and just how it relates to what we saw from Echo in this episode?
Yeah, I think, it's been talked about a lot, and, definitely I don't think Star Wars animation is going to slow down. So we all have in the back of our minds, I think, watching this, is that this isn't going to be the end of animation. There's something more. What could that be? Microcosmically, I feel like we just had like 30 seconds, like almost too much of Echo to be like, why are we having that focus? Why are they reminding us of how good he is? And Zach, what you're saying here is like, he kind of underratedly really shone in this episode of like, he just pulled that whole mission through. And even Hunter, they were kind of like stuck on what we were going to do. And Echo's like, I'll sneak on and I'll, literally make everything happen. I thought that was a really interesting nod to, like how good he is, but also how interesting of a character he could be to follow in maybe some more content after this. But yeah, it's been fascinating because it's kind of a seesaw effect, because then a lot of the comments, I think, from a few fans has been, oh, we haven't gotten much Echo this season. And then suddenly we have a really focused episode of Echo, which just, you know, it just makes you have to go, oh, it kind of reminds you, number one, it reminds you how cool he is. But then I think they're trying to remind us. I think that's purposeful, that they're trying to remind us how cool this character is.
Yep,
and to, you know, to see his continuation would be really cool outside of Bad Batch as well.
And
100%.
yeah, I mean, Zach, you made the point earlier. He was one of the key players in Rookies. That's like the 4th or 5th episode of the Clone Wars. Like, this is a character that's been with us for a long time, to the point where when they seemingly killed him off in season 3 of the Clone Wars, there was an outcry.
Get him back.
People
Get him
were
back
like,
in
what?
here.
No. And Dave Filoni even had to like make a statement about it. It was wild. It was crazy. It was a wild time. Ben, I have a very silly question for you.
I would expect nothing less.
And this occurred to me as I'm watching the episode, that, you know, we see Echo. He's watching the droids as he's infiltrating the ship. It seems like he's nearly gets caught a couple of times, and it took me back to a season 1 episode where Hunter, quote unquote, sells Echo for credits because the guy he's buying him thinks he's buying the most fancy droid in the galaxy.
Oh my god!
Do other droids think Echo is a droid?
I mean, it certainly seems that way. First of all, darn you for taking one of my connections. Secondly, secondly, it does seem like those Astro droids were like they were. You see what they were doing? They were like, they ran past, and then one of them like turns around and is like, "Come on, dude! Like, what are you waiting for? Come on, let's go! Let's get on board the ship!" Like, they were all thing. But like, I like the idea of, like, you know, Echo is he's part droid now, and he's kind of, you know, he's kind of accepting it now. He wasn't very happy about posing as a droid back in season 1, but now he's kind of accepted that part of himself. I just like the overall of just like, yes, okay, I've been one of the people that's been bellyaching about the lack of Echo in this season, but I like the fact that they bring him back in such a big way, and kind of ultimately, I understand now after watching this episode from a writing perspective of they had to get rid of Echo because he would solve all their problems pretty quickly. He's the tech guy. Yeah. You know, if they need to get into a door, he just sticks his hand in the door and opens it. Like, he's very useful. He's very good at his job. He's even more useful. You know, he's been at this probably longer than anyone, literally. He was a rookie back in Rookies. He was the original member of the Domino Squad. He's been around for a very long time, and then continued that through what he's been doing with the Rex. And yeah, he's really good at his job. Like, he's doing like full-on Jack Bauer, Ethan Hunt crap in there, like, you know, doing this whole thing, riding the boxes down there and flipping around. Like, he's the real MVP of this episode. And yeah, I do love Echo, and it is conspicuous that suddenly we're 3 episodes from the end, and here's the big Echo episode. Like, what are you trying to tell us, Filoni and crew?
Yeah, Filoni, he's hinting at something. Go ahead, Zach.
If I may chime in to try to answer your question, I think on my third rewatch, yes, I watched it 3 times.
Of course.
On my third rewatch, I could tell slightly from the intonations of the astromechs that they weren't necessarily upset at his presence. And you know, we know from droids like R2, if somebody's not where they're supposed to be, they'll sound the alarm. These astromechs didn't sound the alarm. They just kind of buzzed angrily at him, almost like a supervisor telling you to get back to work. So I think they do see him as a droid. I think they were mad that this other lanky, awkward-looking droid was in their way and was telling him to get back to whatever it was he was supposed to be doing.
Well, they probably thought he was an AP droid. Like, maybe this is the new AP7 model. You know?
Well, we know droids have scanners. Like, we know, you know, R2 and all these droids, like, they can scan people. Like, they probably just scanning him like, oh yeah, he's got a droid brain in his head. He's got a mechanical arm. Droid. Okay, droid. He's a droid.
I believe the very much alive Tech said way back in season 1, probably the premiere, said to Echo, he said the line, technically you're more machine than man, scientifically speaking, or something to that effect. Some prissy Tech line. So I think, I think the droids think he's a droid. Chris, do you want to add anything on Echo?
You know what I thought when I saw this scene was how incredibly like A New Hope this was. How incredibly original Star Wars this was. Like that whole sequence with him is just infiltrating a base and then going into the computer like that. I'm like, dang, this episode I feel like is very much an homage to A New Hope with this particular part of the story. So I thought that was really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's got that sort of break-in aspect to it. Yeah, go ahead, Hannah.
Did anyone, for a split second, think that perhaps, that this is Meba Gascon's new crew? I thought that for like a solid
B-Squad 2.0.
Only.
I was like, especially like the clear astromech that like had a bit of a see-through dome. I was like, is that a cockpit?
Here's the
Meba
thing.
Gascon?
Here's the thing with Colonel, or should I say Brigadier General Meba Gascon. I'm sure he got that promotion. Is I'm really scared to learn his opinions on the Empire. I feel like he might be a true believer. I feel like even if the Empire didn't accept him, he might be a little bit too big of a fan of the Empire. I'm just scared for that. My buddy Meaver.
Gone. You know what would have been great if that actually was like Meba Gascon like coming in and like he's a part of the Empire, but then it's revealed that he's the new Vice Admiral. And like he has some sort of he like runs into Rampart and there's some sort of exchange about, because like Rampart's all salty about he's not like being treated as who he was before, and he's like, I was a Vice Admiral, you're wrong. That like Meba Gascon's like now the Vice Admiral instead of him. That would have been great. Anyway.
I kind of dig it. Look, we don't know what's going to happen. We keep thinking like, oh, there's this future story that's going to come out of it. They're going to spin off the Rex and an Echo show. Think there's going to be an Omega sequel, something like that is coming. What you figured out here, Hannah, is that this episode was actually the backdoor pilot for the long-awaited Gascon Adventures, the Star Wars sequel.
Get that so quickly.
In
the works for many months.
Look.
If
in the alternate universe, in the alternate parallel dimension where George Lucas never sold Lucasfilm, the other version of us is talking about the third and not final season of the Gascon Adventures. Okay, that's what will be happening.
For anybody who's watching this and like Hannah is wondering where the hell this logo came from, and for everybody who's listening, we've thrown up a logo on the screen that is Star Wars: The Gascon Adventures in the sort of the bluish font of the Clone Wars logo from the droid arc from season 5.
I believe this was an April Fool's joke.
It was. Yeah,
I think that's where this came from.
This was the Star Wars Underworld 2013 April Fool's joke, complete with the quote-unquote official Facebook page that is still live and active.
Are you kidding me?
That has 45 likes on it.
Hold on.
And exactly 3 posts, one being this logo as the cover photo, and then 2 things where we shared the link to the article, quote unquote, that was written about this on our old site. Just wild. Yeah. So the Gascon Adventures.
Still waiting.
I was hoping you guys were stalled long enough that I could find this picture and get it back up here. And thankfully we did. Oh man. Yeah. Gascon Adventures. What a time that would have been. All right. Let's talk a little bit about good old what's his face? Vice Admiral Rampart.
That's
Rampart.
Edmund Rampart to you.
Edmund Rampart, yes.
Edmund Beardmart, I believe.
Edmund Beardmart. Let's go with that. Chris, we see him kind of slide back into his old ways, get right back into being an Imperial. And also I felt like he was quipping a lot more than he used to. What'd you think of the old Rampart's role in this episode?
Very interesting character. And it's a unique thing. You don't get to see this very often, of a character that's still a villain, but forced to help the heroes. So you get to see their personalities interact as if they're allies, but they're not. Like that's a very rare thing that you don't see a lot. Again, it reminds me of Dooku Captured. Again, I've mentioned this before in the Clone Wars, where Dooku had to work with the Obi-Wan. So and Anakin, I think too. So yeah, very, very interesting. I want to keep seeing more of him. Like I want to, like, I think he's a really fascinating character now that there's this dimension to him, and I want to see more. I don't hope this isn't just it for Mr. Rampart. Captain Rampart, Captain demoted.
Zach, what'd you think?
I'm very much in agreement with Chris in the sense that it's so interesting to watch a character who is kind of in a gray area because of situation. Like, he's obviously not good, but he doesn't have the capacity to be bad either, because the group in which he had been bad arrested and betrayed him. So who is he? What is he about? And to hear him using slang, like saying that they would stick out like sweaty Gamorreans, was fantastic in-universe slang. Instead of just a generic stick out like a sore thumb, you used something that is in-universe and appropriate for the type of sarcasm that he was bringing in the episode. And so I really, really enjoyed his dynamic with the batch. But I guess what I'm confused about is, aside from Yularen and his, beautiful mustache, since when is facial hair regulation in the Empire? It's like they gave him this beard, and then this lieutenant on the docking bay just happened to have a beard to kind of reinforce this idea that it's okay to have facial hair.
The guy in the previous episode on the prison planet, he had a beard too.
It's like they were setting it up to be like, it's okay that he didn't shave. Look at these other Imperials who also have beards. It's fine.
I mean, what's his face? One of the guys on the Death Star has some pretty spectacular mutton chops. So, I feel like
all night, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
Agent Callus is one. Yeah.
Teeters the line though. Well, but wasn't Callus like a special ops? Like that isn't part of the standard Imperial uniforms. Like,
I don't think he got the full beard until he joined the rebellion, I think.
just a generic captain. Like, maybe a vice admiral could get away with it, but he's in a captain's uniform, and then there's this lieutenant that pops out that just also happens to have facial hair. It just felt oddly convenient. That's like, yeah, we don't want Rampart to shave, so we're going to give you this Imperial lieutenant who also has facial hair so that everything's okay.
Yeah, it's as if Brad Rao, Jen Corbett, and everybody, they could hear the comments coming a mile away and preemptively put in a few other bearded Imperials.
Right.
I think during Rebels, didn't Josh Gad play a character who had glasses, and people were like, nah, there's no glasses in Star Wars. And this was maybe a preemptive attempt to respond to that. Is anybody worried about Rampart betraying them? Like, there's a moment in this episode where Hunter kind of says to him, remember who broke you out of prison, remember who came for you. Are we at all worried about old Rampart slipping back into his old ways?
I think so. I think so. Just because he's not a fan of this change in plans. And I think because he's been to Tantus before, he's going to be recognized. And so I think the first chance that he gets to redeem himself and reclaim his admiralcy, he's going to jump at it.
I think we're meant to be worried because they keep calling attention to it, and they're like things. And obviously, they're working with Rampart. Like he was the villain in season 1. Like he's a really bad guy who was responsible for destroying Camino. Like we're supposed to be distrustful of him. Because they're so kind of telegraphing it and Hunter's being like, remember this, don't betray us, please. Like, I think he won't betray them. I think he will even have maybe a semi-heroic moment in these upcoming episodes. I think something, because I don't think he has much to gain from betraying them. I think ultimately, if he gets caught by the Empire, he's going right back to prison. He's not going to get his old job back. He got publicly humiliated and betrayed by Palpatine in front of the entire galaxy in the middle of the Senate. Was like, this guy betrayed us. He's not going to be a vice admiral anymore. He doesn't even want to be a captain. Like, so this guy has nothing to lose and everything to gain by working with the batch. So it's going to get real interesting, because I think his use will be depleted by the time they get to Tantus. I mean, it's basically out now, but at the end of this episode, like, they don't need him anymore. What are they going to do with him? But he's going to be along for the ride. And I think he might have the opportunity to betray Palpatine in some way, even more so than he already has.
He does say, I hate clones, though. He does say, I hate clones. Go ahead, Hannah. Sorry.
He's Hux. He's got the Hux storyline. Was that why you widened your eyes before?
That's what I was sitting on. I was sitting on Ben's comment about how he has nothing to gain, everything to lose. And I was like, well, Hux didn't have anything to gain by turning on the First Order, and yet he did anyways. So we have seen the storyline before. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. That's it.
I don't care if they win. I just need Dr. Hemlock to lose.
Yeah, he's got to say that line. He's got to say that line. I swear to God.
That would be fun. Hunter is kind of the other sort of main character of this episode. Anybody have anything they want to sort of throw in about Hunter and his continued evolution, his continued dedication to Omega?
I thought it was cool that they stripped their armor. And they kind of that was their ultimate play, and I think it really worked, because people were like, why didn't they just steal Stormtrooper armor? Like, no, that's not, we've seen that before in 1,000 other Star Wars shows and movies.
Shapes. They're all weird shapes.
Right.
But they couldn't fit into that much. Lanky.
Right. They don't look that much different than those weird black clones that we got in season 1. So I think it totally checks out when he's just like, okay, these are classified. These troopers, they're mine. They're classified. Mind your business. I think that totally checks out. And also, because people are like, oh, their armor's so cool. I'm like, I agree, but this is a sign of the batch. They do not care. They have a mission. They don't even think twice about this. They're like, screw it. We've been painting up this armor for years and years and years. If that's what it takes to get Omega back and rescue these clones, that's exactly what we're going to do. And they don't even think twice about it. I love that.
Yeah. There's an element of just, walk in with confidence, and nobody's going to question you, certainly, to what they're doing. Absolutely.
Hunter had a world of confidence in the final 60 to 90 seconds of this episode.
God.
Yeah.
He had every confidence in Echo. He had every confidence in the mission. He had every confidence in his plan. And, we know just in the back of our minds that these are special clones. We know that just because we've seen the Bad Batch execute all these different plans and kick ass in the final season of the Clone Wars. We've seen what they're capable of doing, but a lot of this season has been tactical moves, advance and retreat and run and hide, because it's the smart play. It's the safe play. He takes a risk in this final sequence. It's a risky maneuver to hope that a heavily guarded Imperial ship loses its sensors just before it goes to hyperjump. And for him to trust in Echo the way that he did, turn the shuttle at exactly the right angle and attach just before the ship jumps, I think that's a testament to his piloting skills and how special he is. But then it's also simultaneously a testament to his leadership and his trust in his crew. in spite of everything that's happened to him, in spite of losing people like Tech and Omega, he still has the confidence to accomplish the mission.
Absolutely.
And I love.
Go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
I love Crosshair's comment. Like Crosshair is like Rampart. It's like losing his damn mind in the back of the ship, going like, "This is not gonna work." And Crosshair is just like, "Nah." Like Echo's gonna come through. Like Echo is still the new guy in the batch. Like he's the guy that showed up late, joined the batch, most recent, and then left. And then Crosshair and him have not had hardly any screen time together. And then even Crosshair's like, "Nah, he's got this, no problem."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a trust there. There's a trust built in there. That final sequence where Hunter attaches the ship to the other ship, and he says negative, and then flies in. I mean, like there was a sequence earlier. There's a moment earlier in the episode where Omega kind of has like a final line. I was like, "Ooh, that was really cool. Why didn't they end the episode with that? That would have been really, really cool." And then I saw this. I'm like, "Oh, that's why." Because they somehow had something even better in their back pocket. And I was talking earlier about these sort of final episodes just kind of being a masterclass in how to do this sort of thing. And that little sequence alone, so brilliant. And there's a lot of dialogue leading into it, but that final sequence is wordless. There's not a word in there, but we all know exactly what's going on. And it's just beautifully and brilliantly pulled off. All right. It's that time. You know what time it is. It's your favorite segment. It's my favorite segment. It's time once again for Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. You'd think after 12 weeks or 14 weeks or whatever, we'd be tired of that. Nope,
never.
Not
it's gonna be a short break between this and the Acolyte, where we're gonna bring it right back for more Connections in the Corner with Ben. Ben, what have you got for us this week?
All right. Well, I actually got a few to this week. Okay, I was proud of myself. I was able to watch the episode a second time and take notes. Oh my god, crazy. The thing, this is actually, I should have mentioned this several episodes ago. I've been holding this one out, and by that I mean I completely forgot. The space station that you see orbiting Coruscant is based on some concept art from the late great Ralph McQuarrie. Back when it was called Had Abaddon, or whatever the name of it was. Like that was I think it was the original concept for maybe Return of the Jedi, I think, or maybe even going back to A New Hope, where there was like twin space stations, and then they kind of condensed it into the Death Star, and that all happened. But like you see them a lot in Rebels and stuff like that, so it's kind of a thing that's kind of come out. I think it's a cool idea of just like the reign of the Empire is coming, and this is stuff that we've seen in the future is coming up in the right now. We're in it. We're neck deep in the Empire. Rampart mentions that I think he tells the troopers, unless you want to spend some time in the brig for disobeying Article 15 of Imperial Standing Order 10. And I did some intense research. I've literally, that's all I've done this week is just research this and figure out exactly what this means and what this article thinks. Surely it's something to do with the EU going back, something George Lucas put in, or whatever else, like something that's, and no, nothing.
Ben, I was so excited for a second there. I thought for sure we found something, and then you spent.
I saw your face light up,
and then you spent so much time building it up. I'm like, oh, this is leading to its nothing, isn't it?
Well, I've worn out my welcome when it comes to fake connections on this show. So really, I have to be more creative. Apologize for that. But I couldn't find anything. I don't know, unless look, I'm always open to be wrong on this. Maybe there's something that I'm missing. Maybe the 15 and the 10 is something that means something. Probably not.
The 15 and the 10 are highways in California, or freeways.
That must be how
exactly
Brad
it.
Rao gets
Why
to
are you
work
so
back in the
mocking to freeways? What's your beef with
Okay, so
freeways?
I didn't mean for it to come out that much. I was more just gonna say freeways,
So,
but like it came out really intonated.
What do you have against freeways?
That's just what they call it. It's because from on the East Coast, roads are called highways, and on the West Coast they're called freeways, and I always say it wrong. So what I meant to say is they're freeways here, not highways.
I thought you were setting up the thing about how it's weird that you park in the driveway and you drive on the parkway. But no.
Where Zach and I come from, you're talking to a Yankee when they say freeway.
Oh wow.
Yankee.
So if I can circle back to Article 15 really quickly. Sorry.
Here we go.
I'm not even going to acknowledge the talking about Yankees because I just don't get me started. I went a different direction and decided to look at if there's anything pertaining to Article 15 in military terms here in the world as we know it.
Oh.
And that actually did reveal something. There are certain standing orders under Article 15 of U.S. military codes that permits higher officers to either punish or court-martial officers beneath them for disobeying a direct order.
So it's like a real-world order. What the heck?
So when he was threatening them with Article 15, Standing Order 10, it may be a reference to a military order punishing those who disobey a direct order from an officer.
Wow.
Zach's connection corner. Connection in the
corner with Zach.
I think you just need to come in every week and do this thing for me.
No, that's not what I'm trying to do.
Literally, just put some glasses on, Zach, and you are literally Ben. I can't get over it. I've been trying to focus, but I can't. I just keep staring at you, bro, being like, "That's Ben without glasses."
What if we do the opposite? What if we do the opposite? Me in a sports cap.
No, put him in a hat. I can't tell which one.
Howdy, y'all.
Anymore.
Put him in a hat. Make me clean shaven. Yeah, that'll.
Oh,
yeah, this is okay. This is Empire Ben. That is like Empire. Like thrown out Ben. That
I'm gonna take this off. I don't want you to get confused and think you're gonna start talking to me and think you're talking to Zach. It could get really dangerous. Really dangerous. Boy, oh boy.
Here's the difference.
Anyway.
Here's the difference.
Oh my god. Wow. Wow.
For everybody listening, Zach just held up his wedding ring to the camera.
That hurt. That hurt.
But that's for Ben and Zach's marriage, though.
Oh,
Ben just lost his.
I'll admit, I've known Ben longer than I've known my wife.
There you go.
It's true, all of it.
Oh wow!
Oh my god!
That's
all right.
good.
Okay. Let's wrap this thing up before we go too much off the rails here. Dr. Scalder, who almost catches Omega in the act of escaping, is voiced by Helen Sadler. Helen Sadler also voiced Rey in Lego Star Wars: The Resistance Rises, and also Jenna Erso in Star Wars Battlefront.
Okay,
nice.
And Lieutenant Holmes is voiced by Ben Diskin, who you know as the voice of AZ in WAC 47. We just mentioned Gascon. There you go. And Jax is voiced by 12-year-old Ivan Centinin. So actual real kid voices a kid in this show. Pretty cool.
There you go.
Novel.
Good for that kid. All right. Is that it, Ben? Is that
we're still in the corner? That was part of the corner?
Yeah, we're still in the corner. Do you have something to add, Hannah? Do you want to throw
until the intro plays, we're still in the corner.
The number of times that Ben yells in these shows.
I'm so sorry, Hannah. I'm so sorry.
All right.
I think I'm good. I just like infiltrating King's Corner, but I don't have anything this week.
Chris, if you've got a connection, anything you want to throw out here?
Just some word.
Yes, I do have a connection.
Does it involve a freeway?
What kind of
No,
highway
I
did they
said
use?
all those. No. In this episode, you may have noticed one of my favorite cameo original Star Wars: A New Hope characters, the Mouse Droid, appearing for 2 seconds.
Love it.
I like how it went up the ship, didn't it? Like it got
Yeah,
got on board.
that's another thing
I
that made
love
me
that.
think of A New Hope is the kind of the droid suction thing, like the same as like the Jawas had in the Sandcrawler.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
There you go. Chris's Connection Corner. All right. That's going to do it for another classic, insightful, beloved edition of Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. There we go. Twice a week, every week. Ben's Connection Corner. All right. Let's wind down the Bad Batch discussion for now. Give some final thoughts and scores out of 10 for this episode. And Hannah, let's throw it to you first. Final thoughts and score out of 10 for Into the Breach.
I really loved this episode. I thought it was very well-rounded. It had a lot of interest, fantastic elements visually. I mean, we didn't even mention some of the most stunning shots of this season so far, of this like overhead shot of Tantus, and just the landscapes and all the shots were fantastic. As well as the music and where we're going with the story is very, very good. So really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 from Hannah. Chris, over to you. Final thoughts, score out of 10.
This was a solid ultimate episode. It like has been mentioned, great setup, but also great story structure within itself. Very entertaining, great characters moving forward. So yeah, 8.5. 8.5 is where it's at.
8.5.
Very accurate
from Chris. Zach,
out of 37. No.
Out of 37? Is that what you just said?
8.5 out of 10. I forgot to say that out of 10, and I'm like, oh, I can say whatever I want for the denominator. Yes, I said that right.
There you go. Zach, final thoughts and score out of 10 for this episode.
We may be on opposite ends of the planet, Hannah, but we seem to be on similar wavelengths about this episode, because one of my final thoughts was actually going to be about the visuals as well, because I really liked the exterior shot of a very lush and green and beautiful Tantus, contrasted immediately by cutting to the very black and white shot of the vault interior. Like they cut from something that's very foresty, very beautiful, to something that is very bleak and drab. And I think that's kind of the essence of the whole episode, is there's a lot of hope that is being expressed, but then visually we're also looking at some very dire situations. And so it's a contrast of what are our hopeful and hope-inspired characters going to do in these situations that seem nearly impossible. And so that contrast that's happening in both storylines, like Chris mentioned, where they're about to converge, is really exciting to anticipate. But the story in and of itself was still really great as well. And so I think it's a 9 out of 10 for me. There's very little nitpicks that I would have about this. The pacing was good. The story was good. Characters were good. I have very few critiques of any kind that I would have for this episode.
All right. 9 out of 10 from Zach. Ben, what about you? Final thoughts and score out of 10 for season 3, episode 13.
Yeah. I'll echo literally everything everyone else has said, There you go. And including the fact that, they brought my boy back, Echo, and he was great, and he got to do some really cool things, and just, upping the ante, I think this episode really, I'm looking forward to going back and watching all these episodes in order, because I think this is really going to, because people were like, oh, we could have had, what if we had a an hour-long episode like we had to start the series. With this ending scene, and I'm like, I'm not opposed to that. That'd be great, but also we're in the middle of that right now. We're in the finale. It's happening right now. We're just getting it 22 minutes per week, but ultimately, this is the calm before the storm. This is we had the big action bit last week, and we got a little bit this week, but it was mostly just tension leading into what's going to be probably a massive blowout. I think the anticipation, is really the best part of this episode. Just like feeling like things are turning around. We've been through the all hope is lost part of the story. Now we're starting to get into everybody knows what they have to do and where they're going, and this is where we need to be, and things are about to happen. The good guys are finally about to get a break, and the bad guys are about to get what's coming to them. And that's why I give this episode a 9 out of 10.
All right. Yeah, to put it in writing terms, we've gotten through the Dark Night of the Soul, and now we're breaking into Act 3. And I'm here for it. Yeah, I'll join everybody else in giving this episode like a 8.5 or a 9. I'll go 9. I really, really did enjoy it. I thought they pulled off a very, very well told story that entertained me for over the course of the span of its runtime, but also made me just feel so excited and so ready for the next 2 episodes and to see where this story takes us and to see what the stories beyond could even be with these characters. Terrific tension, great music, great writing, great direction, great shot selection and editing and pacing, beautiful visuals, and great performances by all the actors involved. So yeah, strong 9 out of 10. All right, we've got some more news to get to, and of course we'll get to some questions and ask the SWU. But first, let's have another clip from our upcoming bonus pod that will be released this Sunday with Paul Sun-Young Lee. In this clip, you're going to hear Paul talk about his first day on set and share some of his memories about working with the late great Carl Weathers. So enjoy this clip.
It was only 2 days. And the first day was that was a tough day. First day was a tough day because, people are like, who the f- is this guy?
Right.
First of all, for me, there were a couple of people who knew my work and they were Canadians, which is hilarious. But it was going in and just doing the scene. It was a scene with Gina Carano. And it was just like, I prepped my work for it. I knew what I wanted to do, the choice that I made. We did the scene. Carl calls cut, comes over, gives me a redirect. He says, so what do you want in the scene? It's like, oh, I want this. He says, no, you only want one thing. You want her to join you. So I want you to keep your eyes on her. Don't take your eyes off her for a minute. Study her, look at her, blah, blah, blah. It's all about winning her over. And okay, I can do that. Carl walks away. Jon Favreau walks in, and John is the showrunner. And so he's overseeing everything. And, I think he's paying extra attention because it's Carl. It's his first episode. They want to make sure everything's running smoothly. It's a genre piece. And then John comes over and says, yeah, so I think the whole scene is about subtext. And so, just throw every line away and don't look at her. Don't even look at her. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? And so I can't throw Carl under the bus. I can't throw John under the bus. I got to serve 2 masters, so to speak. And I tell you, whenever you try to do something like that, it never works. It's awful because you have this non-committal, wishy-washy back and forth performance. And they're freaking out because I'm trying to do that. And they don't know I'm trying to do for both of them. And I'm getting note. And it's like, then I get to talk and I've seen this talk done. I've had it early on in my career where they come and try to calm you down because they think, maybe we made a big mistake. And John goes, don't worry about it. Like we're going to keep shooting until we find what works for us. So you don't have to worry about it. I'm like, God damn it. I am better than this. And so finally at the end, I think they just they had enough variation. And they had enough that I guess they wanted to, if they wanted the Frankensteins a take together, they could do that. And they finally said, just a free take, do what you want. I went, good. And I went back to the original choices that I had made that I wanted.
Nice.
And they went cut, and that was perfect. That's exactly what we were looking for. See, you just needed to warm up a little bit. And I thought, Jesus, this was very, very hard. But we got it. And then, so the next day it was Carl, again, but he was way more relaxed. He'd seen that I could take direction. We're almost finishing the episode, so he's a little bit more relaxed. And we really got a chance to chat in between, and he was quite a gentleman, a gentleman too. And he said, so like, what else have you been in? Like, what would I have seen you in? I said, oh, this is a little show called Kim's Convenience. He says, yeah, okay, I'll watch that. Nice. And I'm thinking, yeah, you're not going to watch that, but thank you. And then season 3, we're shooting season 3, and we're in the back lot, and this is like a year later, and I hear Paul, and it's Carl, and he's running at me. I'm like, oh my god, he's running at me. What? And he goes, I saw Kim's Convenience. I loved it.
Yeah.
Why are we not working together more? And I thought, oh my god, that's amazing.
Yes.
And so that really sort of cemented our friendship. And for the premiere, we hung out, and then he said, he was like, Paul, you got a phone? Give me your phone. He says, now you have my phone number. Text me. We'll get together for a drink. So he came over to the hotel. A few days later, we had drinks and talked about the industry and business. And then we did cons together. So the last time I saw him was at the Winnipeg Comic-Con. And it was him, Emily Swallow, my wife Anna, and I, and we had a really, really lovely dinner together at the Fort Garry place. And that's the last time I saw Carl. And it was just that's a lie. I saw him the next morning. I bought him breakfast because he bought us all dinner.
There you go.
Right. So it was that. But Carl, he was one of my heroes. Because growing up, I saw him, remember him Rocky.
Yeah.
Right. And then there was Predator. He was Dylan in Predator, but he could also do the comedy. Yeah. Obviously, right. Chubbs in Happy Gilmore, but Action Jackson and all these great movies that he was in. The guy was an icon, a Hollywood action icon. And so I feel very lucky to have not only met him and worked with him, been directed by him, but to have gotten to know him. And he loved his family tremendously and was so proud of his grandkids and his kids. He was an amazing man.
And again, you'll hear more from Paul, including more Carl Weathers stories in this Sunday's bonus episode of this show. But yeah, what a guy Carl Weathers was. And imagine being your first day on set and you're getting competing direction from Jon Favreau and Carl Weathers. Who do you listen to? Who do you answer to? Apparently the answer is yourself.
What the hell?
Hang on. We have two Bens in the show now. There's two Bens.
Two can play this.
What is going on? What is going on?
Oh no!
Here we go.
What?
Oh my god!
Keeping this on, even though I can't see a damn thing. I'm keeping this on.
How's it going, everybody?
Oh my word! Oh,
Ben, we'd like a recap of the latest local DFW baseball game.
Sports.
Wait, who's Ben? Who's Ben though? Oh my days, that's uncanny. That's brilliant. That's insane. You're not actually related though, right? Are you actually related? No,
I mean,
okay. I was like, maybe I need...
Americans are all related in some way or the other. So
all you white people look the same.
Oh boy!
Wow.
Amazing.
This is astonishing.
This is a reveal. This is a reveal. All right, let's keep rolling. I know we said there'd be news, but I'm looking at the news list. Beyond sending our condolences to Warwick Davis and his family, given the loss of his wife Samantha this week, I think we can keep moving. But yeah, we do want to send some love and good vibes the way of and condolences the way of the Davis family, because that is a pretty tragic and unexpected loss.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to Ask the SWU. This is where we turn things over to the listeners of the show and answer some of your questions. These questions were submitted on Discord this week in the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord, which if you're not a part of, join it. Ask questions, submit questions, and you could be featured on the next show. All right, this first one comes from Gilster10, who says, with Barriss possibly becoming an Inquisitor, I feel like there's less of a chance of Starkiller from the Force Unleashed games ever entering the canon, but a better chance than Mara Jade. Oh, damn. Chris, just hold back. Somebody hold Chris back.
Yes, let's go.
We know that he, being Starkiller, was almost an Inquisitor in Rebels and would have to have been depowered, but I would love to see a canon version of Starkiller somewhere, whether it would be Vader's secret apprentice or random Force user, maybe helping Cal Kestis in Jedi Fallen Order 3. Anyways, I love me some Sam Witwer. Well, no disagreement on that last statement. Bring on Sam Witwer in just about anything. But I don't know. Do we think there's a chance of Starkiller or Galen Merrick, if you will, appearing in a canon story at some time?
Yes, because at the very least, some kid who grew up playing The Force Unleashed is going to be writing Star Wars at some point. So I think it's inevitable that every kind of major beloved character that isn't canon in Star Wars is going to end up making it into canon one way or the other, because we've seen that happen, repeatedly going back to, the past, with characters like Jackson, for instance, just randomly being inserted into things.
Yeah, the precedent has been set.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately Sam Witwer is someone who continues to be involved in Star Wars in one way, shape, or form. He's still around, so no, it would be no real big surprise. I think even Filoni at one point was I think he talked about the idea of potentially kind of adapting Starkiller into an Inquisitor of some sort. And we're seeing with the Inquisitors, has that mythology has been pushed out and expanded, and taking from the news we skipped tonight, there's an Inquisitors comic coming, miniseries coming. That's even more Inquisitor content on top of Tales of the Jedi, that Tales of the Empire, I should say. I keep getting those confused. So there is a lot. There's a lot that could happen there. I am wondering how well it'll go over, because my whole thing is I love Mara Jade. I would love it. I think there's a strong chance that she will show up in canon eventually, but she won't be necessarily the same character. Just like Starkiller won't be necessarily the same character. I think there's this it's not just doing justice to the character and doing it right. It's fan expectations of, I know this character or something. It's Starkiller is not going to be pulling Star Destroyers out of the sky. He's not going to be, I don't think he's going to be almost killing Darth Vader on multiple accounts. That stuff's not going to be happening. It's going to be a depowered, different kind of character. And people are okay with that. That's fine. I think a lot of people may not be okay with that. So it could be an issue. But I like Galen Merrick as a character. I always have. Ever since I played the game, I love Galen Merrick. So I bring him in. Do something canon with him. That would be great.
I don't know, Ben. I saw a YouTube video last week that said Luke Skywalker was going to pull a Star Destroyer out of the sky in Ahsoka season 2. So if that doesn't happen, then Disney has ruined my childhood, and
okay, you're
all a bunch of shells.
Did I not tell you for the 10th time? Unsubscribe from Mike Zero, please.
Oh man. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah. Bring in Starkiller, but make it Sam. Sam is not the same age that he was in 2009 when that first game came out. Let's wait 10, 15 years and have it be old man Starkiller. He was I remember the Jedi Purge or something. I don't know. I'd like to see that. Old man.
Back in my day, I would actually pull 3 Star Destroyers out of the sky.
It's the meme. I pulled a Star Destroyer out of the sky. Okay, Grandpa, let's get you to bed. Let's. All right. Next question comes from Kajira, who says, never had a fandom like Star Wars, especially the Bad Batch, made me literally having to do something to emotionally prepare myself for whenever it's a new episode day. This past Wednesday, I went to sing my heart out in a karaoke joint. Do y'all's prepare yourself emotionally too? If so, in what way? Here's a picture of yours truly for proof. And she included a drawing that I didn't realize was part of this question and otherwise would have had ready to show on the screen. But it's her in her art style at a karaoke bar singing It's Raining Men, excuse me, by the Weather Girls. It's raining when. That's me asking.
It's raining when.
That's more of a question than a statement. It's raining when?
That's me checking the weather every morning. It's raining when?
When? Oh,
oops. And she also says, she says we should also probably do this at Celebration Japan next year. Okay,
yeah.
how do you prepare yourself emotionally? And if you were to prepare yourself emotionally with karaoke, what song would it be?
Oh, that's.
I've added that question on. Seeing as we'll follow in suit. From Kajira.
Well, as for preparing for the episodes, I have a hearty meal and then a long nap. Genuinely, that is what I do every week.
You sound like you're like you say that like what do you do before a marathon, Hannah? Well, I have a hearty meal and then I have a nap.
Hearty meal,
ready to go
before I go out to the high seas and fight the pirates. I don't know. Yeah, no, I genuinely have a little cat nap before the show, and then get into the episode, because I know the processing of the episode takes a while after it happens as well. And I always get every night that the Bad Batch comes out, every Wednesday. It's like it comes out at like 5 p.m. in Australia. So after the episode, to emotionally process the episode, we always get takeaway. It's like our designated takeaway night to. Or what do you guys call it? Take out, I should say, to translate
Take
to
out.
Americans.
I like
take out.
I like takeaway better.
Takeaway.
I always hear British people say takeaway, and I'm like, that sounds so cool
Yeah,
when you say
'cause
it. Take out.
Taking it away.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Get some takeaway. Get some Chinese or something. And that's our Bad Batch night is takeaway night. So that's how I process the episodes.
Get it in to-go box.
To go. Yeah. There you go. Doggy bag.
Nice.
As far as what song I would pick for karaoke, I think I'd have to go with Duel of the Fates. I know the words there.
I desperately want to go to karaoke with Ben one night now, just to see him go up in front of everybody. Just do who does a choral song?
We already know what he's capable of because we've played Cards Against Humanity with him.
It's true. It's true.
That's good.
I can't say it on this program, but it was absolutely amazing because people caught on that he follows the letter of the rule and will just read whatever card is placed in his hand when he's the judge.
Yeah.
And it's the only time you'll ever hear him say the F word.
Yeah.
I was phenomenal.
I was tired of the game at a certain point, and it stopped trying to win and just became, what can we get Ben to say?
Yes.
And that was more fun than Cards Against Humanity.
I play by the rules. I play by the rules. This is a family show. I don't say that kind of stuff on this show. But when it's among friends and it's on a card, I'm gonna read it.
Yeah, we gotta read it. Ben's got the Ron Burgundy. You just put something on the teleprompter and he'll just say it. I'm Ben Hart. Amazing. Well, the song that you would sing before a Bad Batch episode to emotionally prepare is "Staying Alive," because obviously Tech is staying alive by continuing to be that clone CX2. There you go. All right, good question.
If I may.
Oh, go ahead, Zach. Yeah, absolutely.
My go-to when prepping for anything that has high emotionality to it, usually it's a broadcast or a podcast. But it can also apply to the Bad Batch. I've got to get myself geared up and ready to dispel myself emotionally at times. So generally, it's a Red Bull followed by about 3 or 4 sea shanties.
That's so good.
I love
it.
I love that you guys all have these like pre-episode traditions and stuff. My pre-episode routine is just like, oh, it's on. Click, let's watch. Like there's no prep goes into it whatsoever.
Shocking. Fake fan.
It's like
Fake
maybe I'll get a Diet Coke before this one starts. Oh, okay. All right. Next question comes from Lucky Lego.
I'm not done.
Oh, no. Go on. What else do you do?
I'm so amigo in this group. Okay, so the song.
Oh, right. I did ask that question. Fair point.
Da Hat Muna from Clone Wars Season 5. Da Hat Muna.
There you go.
Fantastic song. It's got to be that song. And also, I'm really fascinated by Matthew Hardy in the chat. doing that freaking country song, but Star Wars version. My, this here Anakin guy.
Maybe later, someday later, now it's just a small
fry.
He left his home and kissed his mom and goodbye. Saying soon I'm going to be a Jedi. All right. That concludes the singing portion of this episode.
Nailed it.
That was singing?
I don't think it was.
I'm Han Solo. I'm Han Solo. Solo.
No, my favorite Star Wars song is Seekell, Stop It Now. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, that's a good answer.
The
Damn
best.
it. Yeah.
Quality answer.
That low kind of child.
Oh, my God.
That's all I remember from that song.
Amazing. Can we move on?
Okay.
Can we ask the next
I
question?
think we're done.
Does anybody else have anything they want to say?
All
right.
I think I'm done.
Next
Thanks.
question. Next question comes from Lucky Lego. Could there be a possibility that at the end of the Mando and Grogu trailer, after the movie title and fade to black, it fades back up and we see grown-up Omega with some old clones in the background?
Yes.
Ooh.
Be fun.
Interesting.
I mean, the connections are strong between the Mandoverse and the Bad Batch. There's been some character crossover with Fennec. And I mean, Project Necromancer. We know where that ultimately winds up, but we first heard it out of, I think, Paleon's mouth or Hux's mouth, one of them in the Mando sequence. So
Yeah.
it's the connections are strong. I mean, if they're trying to figure out the mystery of Project Necromancer or whatever Thrawn may be involved in with the new Empire, Omega might be an interesting source of information.
I see Omega in similar light that I see Grogu, of just like you've kind of like you've centered a whole series around a kid and that kid coming of age, and like you're teeing that up, like you're teeing up something that could be easily paid off in the future, would not be out of the realm of possibility. Just like, oh yeah, here's a grown-up version. Like you don't have to worry about recasting or just like, oh, I don't feel like this. No, they're grown now. They're a different actor playing them. You just cast them and you do it and it would work.
Yeah, be good. Could be good. Good question, Lucky Lego. Next question comes from Martin Ingelston, who says, do you think Rampart is committed to helping the Bad Batch, or will he do a last-ditch effort on Tantus and betray them to get back in the Empire's good graces? I feel like we talked about this already. Feel like we addressed this one in the discussion. And Ben, I think you had it. You were saying heroic end for Rampart.
I think he might go out in a blaze of glory. I think he might make a sacrifice play.
If I may harken back to a comment that was on the YouTube feed from Clips Films Melbourne, wouldn't it be cool if someone let the Zillo Beast escape on Tantus, destroying everything in the facility? Why not Rampart? He's got the Imperial clearance codes. He's got the motivation with the Empire betraying him. He would have means, opportunity, and motive to be just that person.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
cool. Could be interesting.
I
like where we're going. I like the idea. All right. Next one comes from Vlad Sander. Vlad writes, because Hannah asked so nicely last week, here's a joke to start off. Did you hear about the new martial arts fighting move inspired by the Gamorreans? Anyone want to take a stab at this?
I have an idea, and it's very Muppets in nature. So
all right.
I just keep thinking of Miss Piggy. Is it a pork chop?
You got it.
Oh, you're kidding.
Oh,
It's a pork chop.
So good, it's so bad.
It's the ultimate dad joke. I love it.
It's good. It's good. Vlad continues. First, holy Sith spit. The batch cut that ship connection razor fine. Yeah, they certainly did.
Oh,
Second, do you think that Dr. Carr will have to face off against Dr. Skalder at some point? I have been getting the feeling that that the Empire is more alike that Emery is more like Omega than we anticipated. I think she will help Omega and the quote-unquote test subjects escape, but we'll have to fight Skalder to give them time to get away. Third, Echo is on the side ship that the Bad Batch is attached to. How is he going to hide for the trip, and how long does it take to get from the core worlds like Coruscant to wherever Tantus is? On the second the second point about Dr. Carr, I feel like she's going to have to fight Hemlock more than Skalder. I mean, Skalder's a brand new character that we just met this week.
Actually, that's not true.
Oh,
I just realized this.
Back to the corner we go.
Yeah.
Ben, I meant to mention this earlier. Skalder was the first time when we first got to Tantus. She was the first one we met way back in season 1. I thought that was Emery. I'm just as stupid. Like, I thought that was Emery the entire time. No, it was Skalder previously. But like now they're just now bringing her back and kind of setting her up as a little bit of an antagonist. I still don't think, I mean, she might do some stuff, but I think Hemlock's the big bad there.
A rival, perhaps, just trying to get attention and credibility. But is she willing to like sabotage or undermine her superior in order to get that?
It would be a very very imperial, very dark side, rule of two kind of vibe. I could definitely see that sort of thing happening. Even though I do think Emery's more likely to be turning against Hemlock than anybody turning against her.
Right.
Now the question is, how long does it take to get from the core worlds to Tantus? I think the answer is the time between episode 13 and episode 14. So it just depends on how you're watching this.
A week?
For us, it's
1 week.
For somebody a few years from now watching this, it'll be about 5 seconds. That's how
the logic of hyperspace travel is it takes exactly as long as the writers intend it to take. If it needs to take 5 hours, it'll take 5 hours. If it takes 1 minute, it'll do that.
So space travel is like Lord of the Rings wizards. They only arrive precisely when they intend to.
Exactly.
There you go.
Love it.
It makes so much sense now.
All right. Final question. Another one from Gilster10, who says, assuming Order 66 or any of the events from Revenge of the Sith didn't happen, what would have happened to Dooku or Maul if they were captured and returned to Coruscant? Would they have stood trial like in front of the Jedi Council, like Ahsoka in season 5, been imprisoned in the Jedi Temple for the rest of their lives? I doubt any regular prison would hold them. Knowing old Palps, would he have had their prison transport blown up or have had them shanked in the interrogation room?
That's what I think.
What do you guys think?
That's what I think. I don't think he would have let them talk.
Yeah.
Because there is that alternate, I think it's explained in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, it's Dooku's point of view, and it's what Dooku expected to go down on the invisible hand, and Dooku like expected like Anakin to defeat him, and then like they go back and he gets like arrested and they go down, and there's this whole thing where like Dooku is obviously still alive and in that version of the story. And it is interesting, like, because like they had Maul captured too, like fully, like he was on his way to Coruscant, and that I mean, and that's the thing is like that's what I love about that story in particular. It's just like there's so many different variables that could happen. Like if the ship had arrived instead of falling out of hyperspace near whatever moon that was, if it had just made it back to Coruscant, completely different thing. If Order 66 happened, or if Order 66 doesn't happen at all, it's crazy.
Yeah. I think Maul gets shanked in the interrogation room. I think he doesn't make it to trial because at this point Maul's too much of a wild card for Palpatine to allow out there. He knows too much, and if he is in that position where he has to save his own life, he would absolutely sell out Palpatine. Dooku, I think, gets a show trial, and then in a shocking twist, the jury finds him not guilty.
Or he demands a trial by combat.
Trial by combat. And for some reason he has to fight Din Djarin in that, and they're like, "Hey, wait a minute!"
Exactly. You got my reference. Thank you.
Dooku becomes ruler of Mandalore.
Or like Dooku gets a show trial, he's found not guilty, and maybe that's what spurs the Jedi Council to be like, we got to step in here. There's problems with the system. We got to turn things around, and then old Palps gets to go, the Jedi are taking over, just like he does in.
And that's the thing with Dooku is he's more of a politician than he was a Jedi. That's why he left, and that's why he did what he did. It'd be wonder in that situation, ignoring Palpatine's machinations for a second, what could he kind of cook up, could he things, and would the Jedi be like they've done with other Jedi, would be like, would they offer him back? Would this be a thing? Would this be a stain on their credibility of just like, yeah, this is one of your own that created this war, what are you going to do about this? Very interesting. I love, I know we've talked about the what ifs and all this kind of stuff, and if that could be a series and whatever else. That's one story that I would actually like to see played out.
Yeah. Honestly, instead of a what if show, let's just do the trial of different Star Wars characters. Let's just do a full legal drama series. And it's outside of canon. It's just like a thing, and you put a different character on trial every week. And so 1 week it's Dooku, 1 week it's Grievous, 1 week it's Kylo Ren, 1 week it's Vader, and you just put them on trial and see what happens.
So I get to reference my favorite video game. Let's go. So in Genshin Impact, there's a nation called Fontaine, and trials there are like sports in other countries. So literally everybody gathers together and watches the trial and roots for people, and it's broadcast everywhere.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting. Yeah. I thought you were going to reference that thing. I know nothing other than it was a TikTok sound that people were dancing to for some reason about 6 months ago. It was, I think it came from that same game. But
probably
it was the way people said it. Somebody said it. They set it to music and turned it into a dance. It was interesting. Anyway,
I think that's related. Is it talking about the mechanique?
Yeah.
So that's from that. So that what they're talking about there, the mechanique oratrice, is a machine that decides who's guilty or innocent.
Oh,
because basically they have both the judge, who's the person saying the line, and then they have the machine independently, separately rendering a judgment, and both are considered to be immaculate because they both come up with the same answer.
Who would be the judge on the trial of Darth Vader? Who would be the judge? Yoda? Yoda. So I was thinking it'd be like George Lucas.
Okay, let's go. Fourth wall. Okay.
Yeah, just
it's Deadpool.
Yeah. Abandon the
concept. On that note, do you remember the thing that maybe it was at Celebration, maybe another con? They had the trial of Poe Dameron.
Yeah, that was at San Diego Comic-Con, I think.
It had all the cosplayers were there, and the Holdo, and they did a full mock trial. I wish I could have seen that.
That honest to God, that was one of my dad's big criticisms of The Last Jedi. Was he's like. Poe committed a mutiny. There's only one punishment for that. They should have done that. I was like, what?
Off with his head.
Yeah. Oh my God. Fascinating stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I know. Well, there you go. All right. There you go. Good questions this week, everybody. Thank you for submitting those. A lot of fun discussion came out of that. Be sure to join the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord. Link is in the description of whatever you were watching or listening to this on. All right, before we go, one final clip from the Paul Lee interview. This one I'm not going to set up too much. I'm just going to say this was something I was really interested. It's something to do with the Mandalorian and Ahsoka. I was really interested to hear Paul's take on, seeing as it involves Carson Teva in an interesting way. Take a listen. So I want to ask you about something else that relates to Mando season 3 and Ahsoka. I don't think this is something I think you experienced like the rest of us, which is that Carson Teva, very important character in the story now, so important that they gave him character posters for Mando season 3 and and for Ahsoka. And I'm just gonna throw them both up on the screen here. And you got Carson in his X-wing jumpsuit. He's putting on his gloves, ready for action. And people noticed right away it's the exact same picture of you for both of these posters. Is this just like a don't mess with perfection kind of thing? Like we got it right once, let's go with it again?
No, I have no idea. I don't care. Like they could use this. I'm just so happy to have that they thought enough of the character and to put him up there, that he rates having a poster. And this is, for me, I mean, that's like the cherry on top of everything else, right? Like if only Hasbro could step up and release an action figure of me, then it would be complete. But I mean, I look at that with an incredible sense of humility and a sense of satisfaction. It's sort of like I did it. Like my character rates this now. And so I'm happy. I'm happy. And it was funny too, hearing the outrage from the fans saying you couldn't spring for another pose, a different photo, right? And it was just like, I'm fine with it. It's a good picture. If it was a bad picture, I'd be a little bit more like, oh man, really? Right?
If they'd thrown your driver's license picture and just slapped exactly on it, you might have a difference.
I mean, you might have seen this meme. There's a guy, he plays for the Texas Rangers. And he's going through his MLB The Show pictures, and he's like, oh, he's going through his teammates. He goes, that looks really cool. Like the guy's he's a dynamic. He's pitching in this and that. I can't remember what character. I think it was Gallo. And he's going through, and then they have a picture of him, and he looks like he's being violated. He's like, he's got this horrible pained look on his face, and like the picture that they have for his character is just like he looks like a criminal. He's like, who's picking these pictures? Everybody else looks cool, and he looks like the worst. And so, hey, that photograph that they use for me in those posters, I'll take. I'll take every day and twice on Sundays.
And again, you can catch the full interview this Sunday. We'll premiere it at 9 p.m. on the YouTube channel and on your podcatchers. The full interview, by the way, is over an hour long. And I think we featured about 10 minutes of it on this episode here. So it's going to be, I'm very excited for people to hear it. It was really, really fun to record it. It's been really sort of difficult to sit on it for the last week because, we wanted to give it its time. There was a part of me that thought maybe we would just throw it up before this episode, but no, if you got something good, you got to drag it out. Right. That's how you do this. But again, huge thanks to Paul for doing that, for giving me so much of his time. And be sure to listen to the full thing. It'll be there for you if you want it on Sunday night, or it'll be there for you on Monday morning as you're going to work or school or whatever else you got going on. All right. And with that, we can begin to wrap things up for this week.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching and listening to the show. We'll be back with another episode at this time and place next week. If you want to check out the live show, we broadcast on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, a bunch of places. And we do that on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific each and every week. Make sure you follow us on social media at the SWU for future content and programming updates and lots of other awesome stuff on the daily. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
It was my pleasure. It was great fun talking about this Bad Batch episode. I said off the top I didn't think there was much to talk about in the episode, and then we talked about it for like an hour and a half. So it was great. I love the Bad Batch, and I love it how it just enables that level of discussion. Really fun stuff. And again, listen to the Paul interview on Sunday or Monday or some point in the future. You'll like it. It's really good. I had so much fun. And like I said just a minute ago, I can't wait for you all to hear it, and I can't wait to be back next week to break down another episode of the Bad Batch.
Heck yeah, you can follow Dominic on social media at DominicJ25. Ben, thank you so much for hosting as well.
Oh, this was a absolute pleasure as always. Look, I know we don't technically have a new episode out, but I feel under the circumstances, considering we're both here, I have to give a shout out to my other podcast, IPC, at IPC Podcast on all the socials. We haven't recorded it yet, but I've been watching. I watched Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I've been watching Star Trek Discovery. I want to watch the new Fallout show. I'm sure we'll be talking about that and probably a whole lot more on the next episode of IPC, which will be coming soon. Hopefully.
Coming soon to a podcatcher near you. Check it out. And it's IP at IPC Pod. Is that the
at IPC Podcast?
Podcast.
The
there we
full
go.
word.
The full word. The full world. For full word. There we go. I can English. And of course, Raeside from the Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you. Another great show. It was great to finally meet you, Ben. I mean, Zach. Really great to see you. Loving the show, but yeah, another great discussion and great banter as always.
You can follow Hannah on social media at the Raeside, Raeside, for those just listening. And last but not least, Zach, thank you so much for coming back and joining us tonight.
Y'all, thank you 100 times over for having me on this episode. It was a great episode of the Bad Batch and a great episode of the SWU. Y'all put on a fantastic production and have really great discussions. Always enjoy tuning in, but always have fun when I have the opportunity to hop on and be a part of the discussion. This is my roots, you know? We mentioned off the top, 12 years ago, almost to the day, I was on this show talking Star Wars, and now I'm back. And so it's really cool to see the evolution of life that has taken place on all your faces and new faces like Hannah's.
I wasn't even born 12 years ago. That's how long it's been.
I remember when the Facebook page was all y'all had, and it was maybe 3,000 people, and it's over 300K now. It's a whole network, and it's just so awesome to see the evolution and to be such a small part of it. I love Star Wars, and I love having the opportunity to share that love with your followers. So thanks for having me.
Of course. And you can follow Zach on social media at Zach the Voice. For those listening on audio, that's ZACH, the Voice. No K. So make sure you check that out.
Ben Hart with no E and Zach with no K.
Amazing. Make sure you check that out. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, my username, I think you helped me come up with my username, if I'm not
I think
mistaken.
I did.
You think that was you?
I did.
Yeah.
You were trying to come up with something, and I just kind of spitballed a couple of them, and somehow C-3PO stuck. I'm glad that that's still around.
Amazing. Yeah.
Hey, I don't know if you can see it, but this autograph is Steven Stanton. Steven Stanton up here, and you introduced me to him all those years ago. And then I'm a big fan of Over the Hedge, and that's William Shatner's autograph because he did one voice in Over the Hedge.
Over the Hedge.
Yeah.
Oh, great film. Great film.
I got William Shatner not as Captain Kirk, but as Ozzy the Opossum, and those are my two highlights of my autograph wall behind me, and one of those is thanks to you, Chris.
I'm pretty sure that's where coffee came from. I'm pretty sure. I think so. That was where that. So. Oh my goodness.
Is Over the Hedge? Is that who's the lead in that?
Gary Shandling and Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis. Okay, fun fact. Here's a connection for you right here. I've played the video game of Over the Hedge.
What?
And instead of Bruce Willis's part in Over the Hedge video game is not voiced by Bruce Willis. It's voiced by Steven Stanton.
What?
You are
connections everywhere.
Get the red twine.
Yay.
No way.
Yay. We're back in the corner.
Dominic, you just thought we were outroing.
No. That is why the music is on a loop. Oh my gosh, amazing. Awesome. Few quick things to remind everyone about before we finish out. Check out our Discord. We've got the link in the description and the show notes. Make sure you leave us a review. If you're listening, make sure you subscribe if you are watching, and we would love if you became a channel member as well. So check out all the information about that over on YouTube. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back next week. For Dom and Ben and Hannah and Zach, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.